This background is different. We're not in the same room anymore.
Are we in a different place?
Yeah, it's scary and new, but they're still the same best of BGG, baby! What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We are the Brothers Murph, and it's yet again time to talk about the best things going on BoardGameGeek.
Yeah, the last 30 days or so. We're talking about the hotness. We're going to talk about some Murph picks, some things that we found that were cool, a little bit of news, just, going a little over the month, you know?
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and jump into, real quick, some news going on with BoardGameGeek. So the first bit of BoardGameGeek news is that BGG at Sea got announced.
Great name.
I agree.
Supreme branding.
Such good branding. It's a cruise. S-E-A, I over-explained the joke. BGG at Sea in 2022 is happening from July 17th through the 24th, going from Texas, going to 4 different cities, and then returning ideally back to Texas afterward. It's gonna be a super great time where you're gonna be able to cruise with all your favorite board game friends, playing games, checking out new cities and things, and that's gonna be super exciting to know that, like, hey, things are looking up for next year. You can put deposits down right now for rooms and things, and they have on the post on the right there on the hero, the main part of the BoardGameGeek page, all sorts of information about room rates and things, so do check that out today for next summer. Next thing we have, there's always new games in the Geek Game Shop. Be sure to check that out, and there's also in the BoardGameGeek store sneak peeks for new bits coming for games, including realistic buttons for Calico that will replace the cardboard bits. These are nice, different, unique shapes that match the shapes in the game, actually have holes in them, and I imagine you could really sell them into a shirt if you were in a pinch, and I think it's gonna be super cool, so I can't wait to see those become fully realized and be available for us to use in our games.
A bit of news is that Candice Harris has come out with her latest cardboard creations, which is where she interviews different designers in the board gaming hobby and has these really cool in-depth interviews. The latest one was for Andean Abyss, and these interview series are just amazing. If you don't know Candice, watch her stuff. She's incredible. She's just the coolest, funnest person to talk to about board games. She's so enthusiastic about board games and so knowledgeable that it's just infectious to talk to her. The love of board games just pours out of her, and it comes through in her interview series because she's just so enthusiastic about talking to people about board games. It's really, really wonderful. She's done a bunch of other ones with Elizabeth Hargrave for Wingspan, John DeClaire with Mystic Vale, and Root as well. So there's a whole bunch of these now, and please check them out because I really think they're some of the best board game videos out there, certainly some of the best interviews out there. They're really, really wonderful. And that's it for the news. So let's pop down to the table, which is right here, right now, and let's go over the hottest games of the month.
Wait, are we in a different room all of a sudden?
Are we in different clothes?
Is this completely a different day?
Yeah, sometimes construction projects don't go as planned.
Yeah, your jump cuts don't really work very well, but either way, number 10 on the hotness is The Lost Ruins of Arnak.
It is on here. It's pretty much always on here.
It'd be on this list.
It's like Dune Imperium and Dune Imperium showing up too. This and Dune Imperium, I feel like, show up on the list. They're probably gonna be on the list for a minute now, just because expansions are planned. Everyone's playing them, and they're just great.
They're great. Dune's got the movie coming out and things, which we'll talk about again.
Timothy Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet.
But the point is The Lost Ruins of Arnak is a really great blend of worker placement, deck building. There's a lot to explore. It's really about being efficient with your resources, and that's why I think it just keeps satisfying. And even Mary likes it. So that's number 10.
So number 9 is Excavation Earth, which was Excavation Earth, which is an interesting kind of Euro game. This actually won Best Euro Game of the Year at the UK Games Expo, which is pretty cool.
Just recently.
Yeah, just recently. And it's a cool thing where, like, the Earth is, like, gone, but you're from, like, a different solar system. You're different alien races from that solar system, basically coming back to Earth to excavate it and try to find, like, artifacts, which you can, like, which you can, like, sell at the bazaar, like, put on your ship. And it's like, this is a game I hadn't really heard of until I saw it on the Hotness a bunch, and also I was just like, that seems I like that theme
because
a
it's
lot.
like kind of realistic. Like, we dig down and find like ancient civilizations here, and someday you gotta imagine some spacefaring people could be like,
it's 100% gonna happen.
What were these primitive creatures on this planet?
They're gonna find cockroaches and Shania Twain CDs.
Just a bunch of Tupperware.
That's number 9.
Excavation Earth is number 9. Number 8 is a game that just started hitting people's hands as Cascadia.
Yeah, it's from Flatout Games.
Flatout Games and AEG.
It's kind of in the same vein of a lot of these games like Keystone North America and Calico, where they're pretty simple games, but they're kind of abstracty and kind of very puzzly. And we actually got a chance to play this because one of our friends backed it. It hit his hands. He brought it over, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing where you're playing down hexes each turn, and they'll have between like 1 and 3 different land types. You can put them anywhere and arrange them however you like. You ultimately want to make big areas of like
kind of like King Domino-y in that way,
or water or whatever it might be. And then you're always going to put a token down that's going to be paired with this hex that'll show a different type of animal. That animal can go onto any hex that shows that animal on it, saying like salmon belong in the water. They don't belong in the desert. Stuff like that. So you can kind of you're trying to ultimately, different types of animals want to be arranged in a certain way. They might all want to be in a big group or in a big line, or they might not want to be next to each other. They might want to, there's all these different ways and different versions for each animal. There's like 4 or 5 different cards, so they can all have different rules as you play. But it's a simple thing of like, place your tile, place your token.
That's done. That's the entire game.
And then it leaves the spatial puzzle, which is like great, like Calico, made by the same folks and stuff, where it's like mechanically you can explain it in 2 seconds, but it can start to get really kind of gnarly with how
it's more
you lay it
relaxing
out.
than Calico, though. It's the puzzle's not quite as brutal as Calico's, but I really liked Cascadia a lot.
It's really good. That's why it's number 8.
Number 7 showed up here last month. That is Imperium Classic.
Yes.
So this is a different standalone game in the Imperium series, not Dune Imperium, a different series, but basically where you have, so I want to clarify, I don't want that as a standalone game in that series, but this is a game where you have different factions like the Romans or the Gauls, I think, are one of them, and you basically have completely asymmetric factions. You're going head to head, and this is a game again. I haven't really seen. I don't think we know anybody who has it, but I've been reading up on it because we've had to talk about it for the top 10, top 10 hotness a couple months now, and I really do like these kinds of like each player gets like a faction or a character, whether it's like dice thrown or unmatched or something like this, and you're kind of going head to head. I used to not like those games very much, and I think I've started to come around to them a lot more. So this game has become, as we keep seeing it, I'm like, I really want to try this out.
It looks really cool and everything.
Yeah, it looks really nice. And so this game's been popping up and still on the hotness because people are still playing it and talking about it, and it just seems really, really cool, and I really want to try it.
Yeah, that's number 7. So number 6 is Aliens: Fate of the Nostromo, which is a game by Ravensburger, which uses the Alien IP.
Alien games out.
A lot of Alien games.
Like that IP must have opened up. They must have been giving it out more because I feel like there's been a lot.
They're getting around, but this one is similar to a lot of Ravensburger games recently, where they're using kind of IPs to make fairly approachable games for kind of more the mass market. Yeah, it's that kind of crossover.
Another one we're
where
going to talk about soon.
Yeah, where like gamers can definitely get into it because there's enough game there to enjoy, but it's definitely using an IP and making a game that's easy to get going into, which we are personally big fans of because they help make board gamers. So they have a Gargoyles game, they have Jaws and stuff. They have a
whole bunch of different stuff.
Horrified with all of the movie monsters. All of these games that are showing up in Targets and places like that are going to really help maybe hook people in with that IP. Like, oh my gosh, I love Aliens.
Yeah, but they're all at least good games. You know?
And they make these cool games. This is one we haven't tried yet and stuff, but what we've heard is that it's meant to be approachable, easy to get into, and kind of really fun using a familiar cast of characters and stuff, which is a good move for creating board gamers. So says these two.
I've never seen Alien.
God,
I've never seen anyone.
I'll say this. Alien's overrated. Boom. Don't fight me, chat. Don't fight me. It's just one dude's opinion, and it's probably wrong.
I've never seen it, never had much interest in it.
But that's okay. But that is Aliens: The Fate of the Nostromo.
We talked about it earlier. Number 5 is Dune.
I'm not mentioning it. We're not talking about it. Dune Imperium's over.
Oh, it's over now?
No, it's not.
Okay, no, it's not over at all. It's still on here, and it's still really high. Dune Imperium, we've talked about it every month now for a couple months now. It's just kind of like Lost Rings and Arnak. These two, every single time, are just hitting the... They have that deck building worker placement combination that people just
They're the two games that everyone compares to, so they're
still
always mentioned together.
They're not similar at all from what I can tell. You've played them both. They're not.
I don't see the complete overlap, but there is worker placement, deck building, both kind of 50-50 importance.
Yeah. Which is great. Yeah, I still really want to play it. I mean, it's still hot. People are pumped.
Both have been fueled by announcements of expansions already that are coming up like quickly.
I mean, this is just one of those games that, really, I think is going to be a hit for a while. I think, there's usually every every year there's always like, there's tons of games that come out. Sometimes they're kind of a flash in the pan. Sometimes they kind of live on somewhere like, okay, this game's going to be around for a while. I really think Dune, Imperium, and Lost Ruins of Arnak are ones that are going to be around for a while. Just because you can already see, like, a lot of times after a month or so, some games kind of go off the radar and stuff.
Just
and
the
these
normal
two are
cycle.
just, it's just a cycle. These two are just continue on. Dune, Imperium's number 5 because it's probably going to be here next month.
Yeah, just get ready. So number 4 is the next in the series of Horrified
We talked
games.
about this earlier, yeah, another
This is
Ravensburger game.
American Cryptids.
I'm really excited about it because we both love Horrified. And Horrified,
We do.
again, talking about Ravensburger making really good, approachable games. It's like, I went to Horrified thinking, I was like, this game is not going to be good.
Yeah.
I was really expecting
It's a
to not
super
like it.
solid co-op.
I like it a lot. And the American Monsters, so not to plug or anything, but I'm on a podcast that's about like cryptids.
You've
and stuff
talked
like that.
about most of
And
the
literally
characters.
almost every single one of the characters in this Horrified game, we've talked about on our podcast. So I'm just like, this is like perfect made for Death by Monsters because like, it's just Bigfoot, Chupacabra, Jersey Devil. Also, we covered all these things. So I'm like, this is
the
such a
classics.
cool, and like, what a cool version of that game. I'm sad you can't combine them. I understand why you
Yeah,
can't
it's a completely
combine them.
standalone version of Horrified, so it's cooperative still, and I think it will probably be similar to what you're doing, but there will be different
Monsters that you're
you're
fighting.
fighting. They'll have their
almost
own
always
ways.
very location specific.
Yeah.
So you can't bring in Bigfoot.
You can't take the Jersey Devil to
and like, oh,
where
he's in the
Frankenstein
hospital.
lives.
It's like,
Nah,
why? It doesn't make
he's
any
in
sense.
Jersey.
So I get that. It would have been cool if they made him crossbow, but I understand why they can't. But I'm really excited for this version of Horrified because I like Horrified, and I really like kind of like American cryptids like this.
Yeah,
And so I'm
I hope
really
to see
excited.
more, expand on different regions and their
Yeah,
cryptids.
it's like, man, just go through more folklore like this. It's super cool.
Tons to pick from. You have a bajillion episodes of your podcast.
Should
Proves
check
it.
out Death of Monsters.
Check it out, and you can get some new people for your next standalone game.
There you go.
Number 3 is going to be announced by Nick, and it is
Ankh.
Yeah. I felt like I couldn't remember who was doing what, so I just took it.
This one was all loose. So Ankh is again hitting people's hands. This is the last of the trilogy between Blood Rage, Rising Sun, and now Ankh. This one is based in like Egypt. I actually don't know much about this game because it's not really our kind of game. It's a game like
it
all those
looks
games.
like the production's
Oh,
really
of course.
cool,
The minis are absolutely incredible. And they had Angel Heraldez did all the painting for the Kickstarter campaign. And if you like mini painting, follow Angel Heraldez. He's incredible. They look really good, but this is one of those kind of big Eric Lane games in that series. And again, it's hitting people's hands. Again, people have boxes up to the ceiling of Ankh stuff.
A lot of pictures coming out.
A lot of pictures. People are just talking about it. People are asking questions in the forum. So yeah, it's just up in the hotness right now because it's on people's minds because they're getting it and playing it. And it's nice because, people are able to get together a little bit more than they used to. So it's just like people, this is kind of a game where you probably want
It's kind of the perfect time for it to
exactly.
come out.
So it's really cool, and I would like to try it. Kind of like Rising Sun, I don't think I'll like very much, but I do want to try it at least once. Of
course.
Same with Ankh. I'd like to try it. I don't know if we know anybody who has it, but hopefully we do because I would enjoy try it.
Do we know you and you have it?
Do we know you? Yeah, text
Hit
us.
us up. In the meantime, we'll go to number 2.
So number 2 is Arydia, The Paths We Dare Tread. So this is a big game on Kickstarter now that people are super hyped about. People are
got
really
a lot of buzz.
This is a big cooperative, like open world fantasy game, and they consider it's a legacy game, but they consider it like what they call a green legacy. Because one thing you can say against legacy games is they're not very environmentally friendly because you play them and you just throw them away afterwards, right?
Yeah.
You can't really reset them, but this one you actually can reset them. You're opening up boxes, you're opening up envelopes, all that stuff, but they have it in a way where you can reset it so you can play through it again if you want to, or you can then pass it to the next person and they can play through a totally playable game. It's in a way where you can reset the whole thing and play through it again, which I think is a really cool idea.
Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful thing for the company themselves to say like, hey, rather than throw
be
this
conscious
away,
of
like
this.
I'd rather
Yeah.
you just give this to someone else, which makes them no more money.
Yeah.
But it does kind of satisfy that initiative of like, let's find a way to be a little
let's
more
make sure we're doing things
environmentally.
sustainably. Yeah, of course. And the game itself, for me, is a really big, again, like open world game. I know a lot of people like in our chat and stuff that are super pumped about it. I know it's really expensive, but I've heard it seems really cool.
There's
I've really looked
role-playing
into it.
elements and combat and all the kind of things you'd expect in kind of like fantastical, exploration adventure games.
Yeah, it seems cool. And so,
Yeah.
let us know down in the comments if you're interested in it.
Let us know. So number 1 is the game that is just, I feel like
A little controversial.
a little controversial, but has been talked about a ton, and is Descent: Legends of the Dark, the new edition of Descent.
Yeah, but isn't it a new edition? It's confusing. It doesn't really seem like a new edition.
The point is, if it's a new edition or not, the people are talking about
They are.
it, and that's why it's on the hotness.
So this is whether or not it's 3.0 or it's just in that world.
2.5.
Yeah, it's something there. But this is a Descent game, and it is very, very much run by an app, even much more so than a lot of like Fantasy Flight games like Journeys to Middle Earth, which we really like.
Yeah.
This game is really, really run by a map. run by an app rather, and then you have a physical map and then a bunch of 3D terrain. And I do say the 3D terrain is pretty darn cool, but this game it's got very, very mixed reviews kind of all over the place, and so it's been, but it is being talked about a lot, so it's at the top of the hotness because it has been at the top of the hotness for weeks and weeks and weeks. So it's an interesting, we haven't played Descent. I've always been more interested in Imperial Assault than Descent personally.
Same, yeah, just rather have the IP.
But yeah, so it's like it's this game, and again, it seems a very app heavy, which I'm not necessarily against it as a whole, but
yeah, which is a big piece, and I think like a big piece of the cost and stuff in this game has been from the app development, which is
fair. I mean,
enormous.
So what we always do at the very end of the hotness is talk about the most played games on BGG. Sure. Now this is people who have logged their plays. You can actually check every month what games are most played. This is a quick list we always do because a lot of the games are kind of the same because people play a lot of the same
certain ones
games.
that are more likely
There's
to be.
some that show up on here every single time.
Yeah, well, the thing is cool is number 10 is Fantasy Realms,
which had 4,566, weird way of saying that, plays.
It was running that Spiel nominee.
That Spiel's on that Spiel run.
Momentum.
Next up we had Splendor, which had 4,701 plays. Again, quick game. It's easy to get a bunch of those out.
Azul still infinitely played at 5203.
That's what's crazy. Azul's still kicking, right? Like this base Azul.
That's the one that you can definitely play multiple times.
For sure. But it's been out for a few years. You think it wouldn't, but it's still around.
That's what I was saying.
Seven Wonders Duel was played 5,268 times. Again, Seven Wonders Duel pops up here a lot. Quicker game, 2 players. People can play it a lot, right?
Lost Ruins of Arnak is on the list at 5948, which is impressive because that's not the quickest game.
No, it's not.
There's an even more impressive one coming up though on that.
Magic the Gathering has 6,297. Again, probably a little more than that. These are just
our caveat's always that Magic's always probably the most, but like the log plays here. Next one is Terraforming Mars at 7,003 plays, and I'm like, that's a lot of Terraforming Mars.
Yeah, a lot of Terraforming Mars.
This is not a quick game.
If put us down in the comments below if your thoughts about this. I'm curious if any of those people are logging their digital plays of it, because I don't mind logging digital plays personally, and that's a personal thing for me. Sure. Because if you play on the app, you can play it a lot quicker.
Yeah, even still with an app, it's long.
It's impressive.
Yeah, but it's impressive.
Then we had Wingspan, which has 8,068. Wingspan's usually on here.
We have Marble Champions, of course, at 9,690.
I will say, and then the number one, as always, is the Crew, because people can play it a bunch of times in a row, which has 13,506. Now, usually Marble Champions and the Crew are really, really close, and they're always like 5,000 above the rest. But this time, Marble Champions is only 1,600 above.
Yeah.
Third place,
Wingspan
and then the Crew
right
is where it usually is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess for whatever reason this month people weren't playing Marble Champions.
They're spreading it around a little bit.
Yeah,
spreading it around a little bit. But that's the 10 most played games in terms of BGG and what folks log. So of course it's not a perfectly accurate number.
Of course, but it's always an interesting thing to look at, right?
Yeah, things like Fantasy Realms pop up. I'm like, wow, okay, good for Fantasy Realms.
Gets the spiel. It's like the Oscars, you know.
Yeah.
It's like those movies always get watched.
You get some heat going right there.
So let's go ahead and kick it back to definitely not a different day. And talk about some Murph picks. My Murph pick is something I feel like we can all relate to, and that is trying to get out of a game that you do not want to play. Sometimes someone suggests a game and you're just like, nope, not doing that. And this user, L. Schmear, has a whole bunch of bad puns that they've used to get out of board games. They say that they're super picky about board games. A lot of times they don't want to have to say no, so they come up with a bad pun to get out of a game and kind of soften that blow. So we're just going to go through a couple of them. Scrabble. Ugh, it feels like I'm having a vowel movement in front of the elevators. Let me level with you, man. This game has too many ups and downs. Coffee roasters. That game is a grind. Hive. Sorry, that game bugs me. Arboretum. No, just leave that on the shelf. Alchemists. I have bad chemistry with that game. Seriously, there's like 125 of these, and I really suggest you go through them. They're all groan-worthy in the best possible way that only puns can be, you know? They're really, really fun.
So my Murph pick is just a funny interaction that someone related on BoardGameGeek, where they talked about going to a post office to ship out a game overseas, and it kind of led to that inevitable conversation when you're encountering someone in the wild, a muggle, as it were, who doesn't quite know like how board games have evolved. So I think it's really cool, and it went a little bit something like this. All right, here it is.
What's inside?
Oh, it's a game.
Like a video game?
No, like a board game.
What's that?
It's like a kid's game.
So like a toy?
No, like a Monopoly game.
Oh, okay, I see. Why didn't you just say that in the beginning?
Okay. So those are some Murph picks, and now it is time to wrap it up. So what I want to know from you is what's the
ultimate Murph pick?
What's the ultimate Murph pick? What's the best game you played last month, new or old?
My favorite game that I played this month was a new game to us, and that was Four Gardens by Arcane Wonders. This is this really cool game where you're building out these panoramas, these really pretty pictures, and it's got this big old 3D pagoda that has resources on it, and you're playing these cards and you're gathering resources from the pagoda. There's like stone, grass, water, and wood.
Yep.
And the different sides of the pagoda have different amounts of those resources, and you can actually spin the pagoda, which will then change how many of each resource are there. And it's this really cool, really thinky puzzle that's based, it's kind of like a game that's kind of popular right now of like simple games, but like really tough mental puzzles, just because you have to like rotate things in the right way to get what you need.
Getting the resources.
It's really, really fun. And I was very surprised at how much I liked it. I left that game being like, whoa, I really want to play that again.
Yeah, my favorite was Goonies Never Say Die.
You do love the Goonies. Mike grew up on the Goonies.
I grew up on the Goonies.
I was like a couple years too late.
Yeah, and so like for me it was very central to my childhood, wanting to be like an adventurous kid, and like there's no parents around, and we're gonna discover a cave. There are no caves in Sacramento, California.
No, unfortunately.
Just swampland.
Just swamp.
But in this game, you're going through ultimately the story of the Goonies in different kind of chapters.
Yeah.
And we played it with Nikki and Lincoln from BoardGameGeek. You can see we did it live, and then I think they made it an episode right here on BoardGameGeek's channel. And it's really cool because it's kind of a one versus all in a way game where you have different people playing the various Goonie characters. Then you have someone who's kind of the GM, the Goondocks Master, they call it. And they kind of are representing the baddies that are moving around, and they're revealing story elements as you kind of explore different rooms of these caves and things. Kind of story elements go. So there's this whole narrative drive to it that I thought was really fun. And it's a familiar story because like a lot of people did grow up with the Goonies.
Yeah.
This is another game that's like built off of the nostalgia, but one of these kind of mass market games that actually is really fun and has some interesting choices to be made and really pushes you to work cooperatively. And so that's something I'm like, this is great because this is probably gonna make board gamers. And it was really fun for me on the GM side because the booklet really helps carry you along. You don't have to like role play necessarily. You can kind of follow the prompts given, so that's it's not overwhelming as the kind of like the one that's versus all players. So
it was really cool.
It was really cool, really great production. So Goonies Never Say Die was my pick for this month.
So what was your favorite game of the month? What was the best game you played, your favorite game, most memorable experience? Put it down in the comments below. And I think that's it for this month or so. That is gonna be it. That was the news, a little bit of hotness, that kind of stuff.
A little bit of everything like that. We will see you next month. And until then, I've been Mike.
I'm Nick.
And we'll see you in the next one, everybody.
Bye, everybody.